I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. We'll let the record reflect that all board members are present. Board chair comment. The only comment I have is looking through the financials. We gave out a whole lot of scholarships. So that's awesome. That's super awesome. I feel bad for whoever had to write all those. But that's a good thing. And I'll take an approval of the agenda.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Director Roaring and second by Director Bauman. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion passes 6-0. Appreciation, recognition, and presentations.
Chair Austin, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Werekamp. I'm here to present Maya Yorzik and Connor Carlson. Come on up. With they were our AAA Arts, Athletics, and Academics nominees for Royalton. And then we competed in the subsection with our other subsection, District 19, and that was in Albany at the January 18th, Wednesday. And we got to hear from them and all the other spectacular kids that we have in our district, and we are proud to have our two finalists represent us for Royalton. So these are our AAA nominees for Royalton.
Awesome.
Well, there.
Lucas scratch out a little bit. You tell me that.
Yeah, just- Okay. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
You will do.
Chairman Hofstad, members of the board, Superintendent Werekamp, here to introduce the students of the month. None of them made it this evening, but I will make sure that I get the group here in March and we can get a big group picture of all the kids. So the students of the month that I have, Sarah DeLayden was the student of the month in January. Ashley Knettle was December student of the month. Connor Carlson was the student of the month in November.
Thank you.
Ava Shanerock in October. And Joseph Hocken in September. We will have 3 more, March, April, and May, and they kind of come in rapid succession. Because they're all eligible for a Student of the Year scholarship, so we have to do them earlier. So I'm hoping that in the next board meeting or April at the latest, I'll bring in all of the students of the month for a picture. So congratulations to all these students, very well deserving. And we'll have 3 more, March, April, and May. So thank you.
We'll do the picture later. Sounds good.
And I have one more recognition. It's School Board Appreciation Month, the month of February. And so we have certificates. I want to formally thank all of you for your service to our community, our children and families. Sometimes it's a thankless job. You have to put in these times coming to meetings, and people don't always realize the work that goes into it when you're reading through board packets and learning school finance, which is always fun. And it takes a while. So I just want to say how much I appreciate you. And most importantly here, Ms. Seguin's kindergarten class made thank yous for all of you. So I am going to pass these around and you can look at them at your leisure as we go through our meeting. So thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Number 7, recognition of citizens for input purposes. I don't see anybody. All right, we'll move on to reports. Board committee report. Let's start with finance.
We met on Tuesday and you'll see the presentations that we went over shortly and the business manager's report. So
Makes sense. Policy committee. I can do that, I suppose. So we have, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 policies that are at, second reading, and final reading, because they're, just minor changes. Again, changed sub statute to spell out sub statute. And then the one that's going for the third reading is the graduation requirements. And we'll be talking about those a little bit, as we go through the policies. Lots of policies to look over, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, and it's a hefty packet for this week, or yeah, this month as well. Last one is Midstate, so going to their board meeting, we're hiring an actual director, so we have an interim director right now, she's been there for a year. Has done some good things there, but they're posting the position so that everybody can apply for it, and we'll see what comes from that, so.
So Ryan, does that correlate to a superintendent job or is that?
Basically,
Yes, okay.
Yep.
Is the requirements about the same or more?
You don't have to have a superintendent's license,
Okay.
but you do have to have a special education director's license, and it's good to have a superintendent's license. The bigger ones, like in the metro generally, they have superintendent's license,
That's the finance.
and you supervise a lot of
I
people.
I always wondered if that was a requirement or not for that, so.
Superintendent's report.
Yes, so I would like to give a couple of shout outs. February 6th through the 10th is school counselor week, and Monica Pincus is our school counselor and does a wonderful job at our high school, middle school. And so I just want to say thank you to her formally. And also it was Bus Driver Appreciation Day on February 22nd. And so we say a huge thank you to all of what they do for us, traveling to not only the bus routes, but the van routes that may take us, some of our kids over to Midstate or possibly to Claire's House, and then as well as all of our activities. So busy time. I would also like to thank Marge Cardell Smith. She is resigned her position as the transportation director. You know, we've had an interim in there over these last couple of months, and so we posted that position, and we'll start finding our replacement for that position. And then I wanted to just give a brief update on how the strategic planning curriculum review process went for that meeting. So we met a couple of weeks ago, and I want to show you the strategic plan, the updates to it, so you kind of know where we are. That night's meeting, we had probably 6 committee members attend outside of board members. And we did go through this to show them where we are so far in the work. Now we've coded this. The elementary school is in blue, secondary school is in red, and then activities are in purple font. And so we just went through that. We're in progress with our assessment piece with the kindergarten students on whether they'll be ready, you know, how they look for kindergarten readiness. And then also working through the ELA standards. And the Title I support is provided also to support literacy proficiency. Let me keep going down. And then you can see here, we are implementing FastBridge in grades 6 to 8. So we're working through that. We had some initial tests where we can get our baseline, and then we can use that to see how they're moving along in the world of math and reading. Also, if anyone needs extra instruction, we find who those students are and try to meet their needs through academic interventionists, et cetera, math, reading areas. And then college and career readiness goals. basically the state standards have been aligned to our math curriculum, implementation of FastBread again. So some of these are redundant in the work that we're doing based on the world's best workforce goals. So you know that those are the first goals that the state requires us to have. We don't have input on those particular goals. Keep going down. As you can see now, when we get into here, you can talk about, we have the first go around, the November update, and then you see in February was the further updates that the principals went in and updated along with their teaching staff. So they work with teaching staff during meetings and talk about exactly where are we with this. So with our FTE that was approved for the new ag position, it's going to be able to incorporate a lot more electives that'll lead us to those life skills classes and that type of thing. So we're excited about those opportunities. And then keep going, some service learning opportunities that we have. By the way, that Kids Hearts Challenge, I believe, is this Friday, right? So I think that's coming. So that'll be exciting. Hopefully they'll meet their goal because some of our teachers are gonna look interesting, shaved head, mohawk. It's gonna be interesting. So I'll let Phil give you more insight on that. And then we did have a career exploration day planned and the weather hit and they had a lot of cancellations. And so we have to reschedule that out to the fall. That was disappointing. We had a lot of businesses that were gonna be coming in and then we just didn't know with the weather on last Friday. A lot of them had to pull out. Some were even flying in and had to have their flights canceled. So we'll keep that in our future, won't stop that. And then, you want to keep going down. Just some of our social emotional supports, and what we're doing there to work with, we're continuing some tutoring stuff, some writing activities, things like that. So continue with that work. One thing that came out of the meeting, that was, I think, appreciative was we had our different curricular areas being reviewed, and one was early childhood. One was business, one was the ag and technology, and then our arts program. And they did a really nice job, I thought, presenting, the teachers presenting what the needs were and what they thought would work best and able to look through it and have some hands-on opportunities. And I did get feedback from a couple parents that were there that were really pleased and thought it was really helpful. So I think that night went well, and yeah, I can take any questions about that. Other than that, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Business manager report.
Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I am Scott Moran. And Michelle, were you pulling up the presentation or do you need me to share my screen?
Oh, I can. Can you see?
I can't, but as long as you can, that's fine. All right, so the February FY23 budget update. I start with the enrollment tab where I discuss what we adopted the FY23 budget off of. We used 920 ADMs. As of February 13th, 2023, we had enrollment of 946 ADMs. And as I mentioned to the board, when I revised the ADMs, what they call ADM, I revised that to 938. So we'll start capturing that revenue moving forward. So revenues current year to date, we're 644,000 above FY 2022 pace. And for expenditures, we are 1 million ahead of FY 22 pace. So when it comes to the revenues, that's primarily due from the buying increase, additional ADMs. This is also less than the 10% holdback that we receive. So as you guys all know, we get 90% of the funding, 10% is held back. We get that September, October, November timeframe. Expenditures are primarily due to the early purchase of capital equipment. As I mentioned to the finance committee group, we all met in May. Everyone came into a room together with their request for capital, and we approved what we could. And so that way everybody knew what we were doing. But that went into what they call a balance sheet for the liabilities, and then we expense the actual account codes once we hit the FY23. So that will average out over the course of the rest of the year. And then also purchase services are up due to staff coverage. But other than that, any questions from a standpoint of finance committee report, or excuse me, the budget report?
Yeah, Scott, I have a question.
Yes.
on your expenditures sheet, could you help me understand what those line items mean? Some of them are not kind of self-explanatory, so the site administration, like what is encompassed in that? And some of these other ones that it's not obvious. And did you want to go through that? Because I don't know what all of these stand for.
Sure. And I can't quite see the television screen, but can you tell me if you're looking at the budget report or are you looking at the presentation?
The presentation on the expenditures page.
Gotcha. Okay. So in the board report, or actually in the board folder, there's also going to be the budget. So I just put together this for the board to put this into simple, easier to understand terms. But if you look at the board report that I also put in there every single month, that goes into more detail as far as by object code and by program codes. So I think that will give you the answer that you're looking for.
Okay.
When it comes to looking for that. And if you have any questions as you go through that, please by all means reach out to me and copy Superintendent Weirkamp on there as well.
Okay. Thank you.
But a lot of it's salaries, like site administration, like principals and that kind of thing, and other salaries that go into that district office would be a part of that administration piece. Support services can include paras, regular instruction are your teachers. Special education obviously would be special education staff. For the most part, sometimes you have other expenses wrapped into those things, but that's a lot of where that comes from.
Sure. Well, I'm sure the budget is,
Yeah, like,
it is staff.
right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, so I couldn't quite see who was asking the question, but if you're looking on the board report or the board, the 6 or 7 pages that are in there, then you'd want to focus on that 110 program code as you go through there and to look at that, what's all included in that. But like I said, great question. If you have any more, please let me know.
Thanks, Scott.
Yes, no problem.
All right. We'll go to the principal's report.
Good evening, Chairman Hofstad, Dr. Weirkamp, and board members. We had a really good in-service today. We're still focused on English language arts and reviewing and aligning our learning goals and developing strategies to achieve them. And we've made a lot of progress in thinking about and using our proficiency scales. So I'm just really pleased with the progress we've made. The attitude and willingness to work of the teachers is just great. Can't compliment them enough. So I think we're on track. And I just see good things for the future. I think it's just going to keep getting better. So I felt a better sense of ownership and feeling like we've got some traction now and really making progress. And last time, I kind of made a snide remark because the feedback was we're working them a little too hard. So we did step back and planned a half a day and then let the teachers plan the other half day. And it just put them into such a good mood right from the start. I think that really helped make the day. And so we're just going to continue with that interaction. We did a survey after today. We have 4 people from Sourcewell plus myself. So as we're planning, we've been assuming everything's hunky-dory, going well, and we're getting feedback, oh, we're getting worn out, which I didn't mind because part of what I need to do was push ahead a little bit, but we adjusted, and I think that was a smart thing to do. So we have a RIF program tomorrow morning at 8:40, assembly program, and then the kids get their books throughout the day, so you're invited to that. The Kid Hearts Challenge that Dr. Weirkamp mentioned is this Friday. And it's kind of interesting because if the students reach their goal, 3 teachers, one has volunteered to get a mohawk. Another one, I thought they said shave his head. You got a nice head of hair there. I'm not volunteering for that.
So, it might not come back.
Right. When you get a certain age, you get a chance to do that stuff. And then the last one getting slimed, but I suspect they probably put the goal so high, that it's low risk getting there, but we'll see. I mean, if it comes to I don't know, $300, I'll probably donate it just to. Teaching a lesson.
Pitch in.
So, and then our PTO is doing their meat raffle every Friday with the Legion Fish and Shrimp Fry. So thank you to the PTO. And they earn good money and they give it right back to the school. So it's a great organization. We appreciate their support. We are planning for preschool registration night on March 21st. So that's coming up. And we still have a few more meetings to go to figure out everything on the registration materials, but we're going to be there and we're expecting a good turnout. We have strong enrollment in our preschool and there's no reason for that not to continue. We've hired or recommending for hiring. I don't know if they're all on the agenda tonight, but 3 paras. At least 2 of them are replacement special ed paras and then extra support one. So I think real good quality candidates. We don't get a lot of applicants, but if you can just find the one that fits, okay, it's relief, so that's good. And just from the elementary, I know Tony will be speaking more about it, but very congratulations to the wrestling team. They're going to walk the elementary hallways on Wednesday. And I just think what a great story. Kind of surprised at how well that went. So congratulations. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Hofstad, members of the board, Superintendent Werkamp. Couple quick things going on at the high school, middle school tonight. We have our student-led conferences that have been going on this afternoon. Our in-service day is student-led conference prep. I have a meeting this morning and then the teachers are preparing for the student-led conferences. We also had a pre-registration session this afternoon. It started at 2 and Monica finished her last one at 4:43. The next session started at 5 o'clock. And so we have a session at 5 and we have a session again at 6:45. And then there will be a session on Thursday night at 6 o'clock for pre-registration. Our student-led conferences in the past have been above 70% participation by parents in comparison to regular conferences. They range between 25 and 40%. And so student-led conferences have been a success. And we're looking to keep that number up there. It's been a little bit challenging after we didn't have them for a few years with COVID to rebuild that back up and to rebuild that importance back up. But when I pulled just a straw poll of teachers this morning, how many of them had over 50% of their students signed up for student-led conferences? The vast majority of teachers had that. So even if they're at 55%, they are at 15 to 20% higher than they would be for a normal conference. So we have the conference tonight, and then Thursday night, we rescheduled from last week with the snow. We rescheduled conferences to this coming Thursday. On top of that, we have the honors breakfast, which was rescheduled from last week. This is going to be just making it to Friday is going to be a good deal. We have the middle school honors breakfast tomorrow and the senior high honors breakfast, Minnesota Honor Society induction on Wednesday morning. So if you're attending both, you'll have caramel rolls and juice both mornings for breakfast. They are well attended. It is one of my favorite, besides graduation, one of my favorite ceremonies of the year. It's a chance for us to honor the reason we're here in school 8:15 to 3:10 every day is that academic work. And to have the chance to, even by reading the student's name and getting their certificate, as a chance to honor those students and to honor that work and to recognize that work. So it is one of my, I hope I have a stack this big. I'll read them all, and it's exciting to see the students be recognized for all that hard work that goes into that. If you think about You play a basketball game for an hour and a half and get a big write-up in the newspaper. But if you think about not only the time spent in class, but the time spent outside of class in Royal Hour, working to keep grades up. It's pretty neat that we get the chance to come together and to honor that work by our students. So those honors breakfasts will be tomorrow morning for middle school and Wednesday morning for the high school. The last thing I have is Deep Portage. We had a meeting last week, March 13th through the 15th. We will be attending Deep Portage. That's about $119 a student to attend. We received donations from the Royalton Legion, $3,800. The Royalton Walkathon, which was fundraisers that we had done in the past for field trips. There's some money left there. They gave $2,000 to the Deep Portage trip. And then the Royalton Fire Department donated $4,000. So we are at $9,800. And we are still waiting for the Rice Sportsman Club to donate, and they indicated they were. Their chairperson was on, I think he was in Cabo last week. They're going to get back to us, but we are looking at taking that price from $119 a kid to down around 20, maybe. And that's without the Rice Sportsman's Club. So we are excited that we can have all 87 seventh graders go to Deep Portage without having a financial constraint on the families and parents. And so I'd like to really thank, we have some really great service organizations in this community with the Lions clubs and the fire department and the lead. There was a time where the Legion was barely making it. They were, paying off the building and doing that, but they have, God, in the last decade, they have donated countless dollars to our district for anything from band to trips. And so just like to thank all of those organizations for making it possible on short notice like this to get a group of kids to be able to go on a tradition trip. We figured out that it has to be 32 or 33 consecutive years that we've had students attending Deep Portage. Students who graduated in 1996 were the first group that went to Deep Portage, and we went every year except for the year that this seventh grade group did not get to go. So we will keep that streak alive into next year's fifth grade, and I think they're planning on going again. We'll be at 33 or 32 or 33 years straight of going to Deep Portage. It's an experience that the students reflect on as they move throughout high school, and as they graduate from high school, that remembering that experience of going to Deep Portage is one that we want for all our students. So thank you to the groups. Thank you to Carrie Meek. She has went to all the meetings with the community organizations, organized the parent meeting that we had last week. She has put in a lot of work in this, and I'd like to thank her for those efforts. Any questions?
I have one, I don't know if it's the right place for it. They approached by a member of the public. We got kids that are doing CI, it's not CIS, they're actually going to college, or whatever. And they don't get reflected in the honor roll breakfast, and there's no recognition. And I didn't know what to say to the family, and I still don't know what to think about it 100%, but it's something that maybe we should think about a little bit. If they decide to forego their senior year, junior and senior year, or whatever they do, is there, number one, is there a responsibility for Royalton to recognize them? They still are a student here, or is there not? That's 15 years ago, if you'd asked me if that's a great idea, I'd have been all power to it. And as I get more years behind me, sometimes I stop and say, what's the hurry? So personally, my feeling is that it's, that person's moving on, that's their choice, but I thought it was worth bringing up to the board that, you know, I don't know if that's something that we should be talking about or not, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely take a look into that. It really sometimes depends on whether it's St. Cloud State, St. Cloud Technical College.
Right.
Central Lakes College, any of the colleges we're working with PSEO, sometimes their grading timelines don't even match
Right.
ours.
Right, and you know, I just, you know, as a board member, you get a lot of things brought up to you and, you know, wash off your back, and then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, I think this is worth having a conversation in front of all the board members for, because I don't want to leave anybody out that's, I mean, there's still a Royalton student out there, so.
Yeah. We'd have to look at how the college grades translate into college, high school grades and all of that. Excuse me, and to see what goes on the transcript and how it reads, and it's
I just thought it's
something to look at.
something worthy to bring up to you, so,
Absolutely.
all right.
I have a question about that, then. Does that mean PSEO grades have no impact on the student's Royalton GPA? Is that what I'm understanding? So if somebody's fully post-secondary,
Guess
is that what it is?
That was one of the questions I had is, I mean, if a kid goes to secondary, are they gonna walk across at graduation?
Yes, they still meet the grad requirements of the college classes they take. It's a
So then-
determination of whether. the
Then they're
college
really
classes
still our students, so if they're meeting some kind of criteria and we maybe don't have the criteria set. There would be some.
Yeah, we'd have to look at, again, how those PSEO grades. Play into a full-time PSEO student. Those grades are reflective of St. Cloud State's requirements, not necessarily, you know, our
Exactly.
requirements, so.
Wouldn't they be on the, let's say, St. Cloud State's honor roll from there though, if they're a full-time student there?
I believe so.
Mhm.
If they're
So-
full-time.
So maybe that was the right answer. I just,
I will check on it though. I will sit down with Monica and take a look at it. Make sure that we're not missing anything.
yeah.
It's a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Athletic director. You're not busy at all, right?
Where do we begin?
It's not my first, yeah.
Well, on Monday, there's a ton of stuff to be excited about for our school and our kids. And the busyness and the craziness that this week is, you know, you deal with it because of how fun it is. We've had some crazy nights here with junior high volleyball, junior high football, the track or the cross country meet, ABC volleyball here, you know, everything's busy and crazy. You know, our buildings may not be crazy, but our kids are, as far as what's going on. This week, we've got band going to contest in Albany tomorrow for their region competition. Choir goes on Wednesday. We've got the honors breakfast Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. We've got wrestling going to the state tournament. We are the 4 seed wrestling Howard Lake Waverly Winstead at 9 a.m. on Thursday at the Excel Center. And that's a very favorable matchup for us. So they'll compete all day Thursday. We have 6 individuals for wrestling going and competing on Friday and Saturday. And that's exciting. We've got girls basketball. It's going to be hosting, they are in the 6th seed in the section tournament. So they're going to be hosting St. Cloud Cathedral. We just played this past Saturday in a section game on Thursday at 7 p.m. here. So not only do we have conferences going on Thursday, but we also got a home playoff game, which is exciting. That'll be streamed. We're able to stream that for free on our YouTube channel. The only requirement for that is you just can't have advertising. So we'll do that. We've got robotics state tournament for our middle schoolers. We're doing a send off for them on Thursday at 2:15, so they can get to their St. Cloud Convention Center for their state tournament, and they compete Thursday into Friday. And our elementary is competing on Saturday. Crazy busy right now, but
Them
it's,
girls win.
and if the girls win, they would play on Saturday at St. John's, time to be determined. So there's just a lot of things going on. Boys basketball's got 2 games this week. The final home game is tomorrow against Eden Valley Watkins, and then they play at Rockford on Friday. And you know, with the craziness and everything going on, coaches are very responsive to what our athletes and what they want. You know, I've been talking with Jeremy Albright about, you know, what do we do for practice? Kids want to go, you know, what time could we practice in the morning? And I said, well, the fan bus is leaving Thursday morning at 6:30. So, and we talked to some other kids at lunch last week. Oh yeah, we're going. And I said, well, what time you plan on leaving? Well, I'll probably leave about 7. I said, well, we're talking cities traffic on the other side of the cities. You probably want to leave at 6:30. Oh yeah. Okay. So, no matter the fan bus leaving at 6:30 or not, that's probably the best time for them to leave to get there by 9. So, but we got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to be proud about for our kids. Coming up here, we've got VPA State. So be the Thursday of March 9th is the first playoff game for the boys. And then we've got three people involved in that on that team that have qualified for the VPA State tournament down in Minneapolis. So they're gonna have to leave from the game, go right to Minneapolis, compete at the state tournament for BPA. And we just roll, you know, so it's exciting, it's fun, it's busy. It's at the same time, it's reflective of how good our kids are doing. So it's really exciting.
When does the spring season officially start?
So we're off on the 13th, right? So the 14th softball will start, and then a week later is when baseball and golf will start. So they just bleed together here between winter to spring. So
We need the snow to go in.
you need to snow.
What are we doing with track without a head coach?
I've been trying to shake some trees. You know, they're throwing out some ideas. I've contacted one. He was a former head coach for us. He's mulling it over based on his job. He's an assistant coach for another school for basketball, so that could work. Thought about, you know, that we've got 2 on staff right now. I've got one waiting to see who the head is, because they don't want to commit and be assigned the head role. So I've got 3 kind of on standby. Thought is maybe we do the 2 assistants. They split the role as head, and you add up an assistant and a head coach, and just divide it by 2 equal duties and do it that way. If that's not workable for them, then I have to do it. Not have to do it. I will do it. At least we have to have a head person. So
That was my next question, to the athletic director step in.
okay, that's the answer. That's the answer.
That's a tough role. That's a hard sport to coach, because there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different.
There's a lot of specialties.
Specific, special, right? It's very specific.
Yeah, between jumps and sprints to throws to distance to. Yeah, there's a lot of working parts that you have to.
Right.
Keep in check, so.
Thank you. All right, next is the consent agenda for approval. So the board is consenting to approve items listed below as presented at one time. Any point, any director can pull an item off the consent agenda for further discussion. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Hackett,
Second.
by Director Bauman. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to, first of all, we have 3 people that are resigning or retiring. They've already retired, came back and worked, and so now resigning. So I would like to formally thank Randy Steelges for 38 years of employment, Phil Garbata, 35 years, and Sherry Plouffe, 16 years. So Dr. Grabata's been with us and done a nice job leading that building, and it'll be big shoes to replace. We'll work hard to find the right replacement. Same thing with our science teacher. I think we have a candidate for music, hopefully, so we'll keep that moving along. But I just want to thank them. They've done a lot of good work for our kids and been really devoted to us here at Royalton. And so I just want to wish them very well on their next adventure.
Awesome. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what you mentioned earlier about the scholarships. I noticed that too. Are those students that are current seniors, or are these scholarships that are being put to seniors that graduated last year? Like, I was trying to figure out, why are they being dispersed in January? Like, did seniors this year already get scholarships, qualify for them? I didn't, so I was just trying to figure that piece of the puzzle out, and since you brought them up, I thought, well, I might as well ask so I can understand what the
Well,
process is.
It also depends on the scholarship. Some of them, they have to come back with transcripts after their first semester and show that they did go to college to get it,
Sure.
and then it's paid out. And some of them are, just, hey, you received the scholarship, so we're cutting you a check and you can use it for anything, basically.
Sure. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, no, good question. All right, I have a motion by Director Hackett, a second by Director Bauman, to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes 6-0. Number 10, middle school, high school course handbook.
Chairman Hofstad, members of the board, Superintendent Werekamp, this is for your review. It is the course registration guide that we'll be going by for the 2023-24 school year. And it has updated graduation requirements. It talks about all of those things that are in the index there. We could probably spend hours, I could talk for hours on all of the things that are there, but it talks about PSEO, CIS courses, some of the procedures and things that go into registration, our schedule. And then it has course descriptions for all of our classes that the teachers are the authors of. That goes into that, and then our students have access to this when they are registering for classes. And so wanted to present this to the board as it does reflect the updated policy of that third reading of the grad requirements. That is updated in this course registration handbook, but it is the tool with which we register all of our students with. So looking for comments, questions, ideas.
I got through about half of it, and I read some with Cole as we were going through before registration stuff today. So I will say it was super helpful, understanding what some of the classes actually mean from the titles that they were. So that was super helpful. So I just like to say great job on putting that all together.
Yeah, Monica and Robin spend a lot of time putting this together. This process for us starts, believe it, 2 months into the school year, we start working on the course registration book. By Christmas, we pretty much are already with our sights set for 23-24. But you're right, if you had a Fix It 101 class, if you don't have a course registration book, what is that class about? What is it going to entail? And so it's an effort to give our students a better idea of I would think any academic institution has a course registration book with a general synopsis of what a course is going to entail.
And does the board need to approve this?
There's
I
more
just
information.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah. There's information.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Approval of donations by resolution. Does somebody want to introduce the donation resolution? Director Bauman. So Director Bauman introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption, whereas all information is included in your packet. Royalton American Legion has generously donated $3,800 for the 7th grade deep portage trip. And the Royalton Lions Club has generously donated $350 towards the FFA clubs. Whereas the conditions on these gifts are included in the packet. Therefore, be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gifts. Motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member
Hackett.
Hackett. On a roll call vote will be taken thereon. Director Roaring, can you call the roll?
Director Bauman. Aye. Director Hofstad.
Aye.
Director Hackett.
Aye.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Roy. Aye. Director Trout.
Aye.
All right. And no votes against and no abstains. The resolution was approved on this 27th day of February. 2023. All right, thank you. Next, approval of grants by resolution. Somebody want to introduce the acceptance of grants? The Director Roaring?
Yep.
All right. Member Roaring introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption, whereas all information is included in your packet. The Blackbaud Giving Fund has generously given $1,000 to Royalton Elementary School on behalf of the Medtronic Foundation Volunteer Grant. And the Blackbaud Giving Fund has generously given $6,000 to Royalton High School on behalf of the Medtronic Foundation Volunteer Grant. Whereas the conditions on these gifts are included in the packet, therefore be it resolved by the Royalton School Board to gratefully accept the gifts. Motion for adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by member. By member Bauman, and upon a roll call vote was taken. Director Roaring.
Director Bauman. Aye. Director Hofstad.
Aye.
Director Hackett.
Aye.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Roy. Aye. Director Trout.
Aye.
All right, and 0 voted against and 0 abstained. The foregoing resolution was approved this 27th day of February, 2023. And again, a generous thank you to the Royalton American Legion, the Lions Club, and the Giving Fund from the Medtronic Foundation Volunteer Grant. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
A moment. So Maria and Lucas, so you know that a couple years ago, the Minnesota's statute change that we have to, it seems clunky when we accept these donations by resolution, but that's the way we're required to do it now. So it seems impersonal and clunky, but it's formal and that's the way we have to do it. So just so you guys know that they changed that, so.
All right, thank you, Randy.
Mhm.
Approval of the 2023 BPA request for nationals.
It is coming up here really quickly, BPA state. And then those that advance to the final day, the final round of scoring. If you score high enough, you're invited to go to the national tournament, and that is coming up here. The reason why I'm bringing it now rather than like in April when the conference happens is because registration is due the following Thursday. So we are done with our state tournament, the 11th. And by the next week on the 16th, they have to have registrations in March. So that's why I'm bringing this to you now. Just looking for your approval. Stephanie Berg had broken down costs as for what it could cost us to send students and an advisor to Anaheim for the national conference. And this follows the model that we've used in previous years for BPA Go Nationals, and that same ideal for when we took FFA as well. This would not be a driving one, that would be fun. Kids have this information already as far as what potential costs would be, so families get a heads up. They can certainly decline If they say, well, qualified, awesome, but I can't afford it. That's up to them, but at least they have information ahead of time, so that if they do qualify, they know what their decision is gonna be.
How many have we sent in the past?
We didn't have any last year,
But 2 years ago, we did, didn't we?
it was virtual.
Oh, that's right.
It was a COVID, so we didn't go anywhere. But then my first year, we didn't have any, and then
We got up to 5 go in the past. I know they went to Florida Florida was one year, but yeah, we had up to 5 attend the BTA Nationals. I think that's the highest in any one year.
The students are responsible for paying their own way if they choose to go, is that?
So what the district covers is registration, hotel, and then our meals. And then kids are responsible for, families are responsible for their airfare, which is really variable. Shuttles, and then if you go above and beyond the meal money that we allocate for the day, then that's up to them. And then if they go and do something extra as a group, then that'd be up to them as well.
You have to have a minimum commitment? Like what one? person
If
wants
they
to go?
choose to go, then yep,
Okay.
that's what I'm looking for approval is. There's not a minimum of 1 goes or 15 go.
Sure.
But if that student wants to go, then we take them.
I make the motion to approve.
Yep.
Right, I have a motion by Director Roaring, second by Director Bauman, to approve the 2023 BPA request for nationals. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 6-0. Approval of coaching placement request.
Last time, I promise.
Pardon.
The hiring process, we have offered the head boys golf coach to Jeremy Albright and the head girls golf coach to Ryan Marwitz. And I'm looking to place them on step 8 of the contract for stipend purposes for coaching. Mr. Albright brings 22 years as a golf coach, 13 years as head experience as a boys and girls coach. That was a joint program in Rush City. Mr. Marwitz brings 9 years of head golf, girls golf experience from St. Cloud Tech. And St. Cloud, they were combined and then they split. And based on talking to them about things that they need and instruction and how they're gonna run it, I mean, they have a wealth of experience that we're gonna lean on, and our kids are gonna be in a best position they can be for it.
I have a question. Why 8?
It follows the REM contract is up to school board approval is 8.
Is that, okay, I thought I read that somewhere sometime before, but
It doesn't necessarily state for Schedule C, but it's past practice has been following that, so.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there a reason that they're split, the girls and boys? Why we go with a combined? You know, we're so small, we have no
Right.
idea how. big
It's hard to know how many, based on the
Right.
survey. We were looking at low teens for girls and low 20s for boys. And so, if for the 9-12, not including junior high. So when you look at that, can a head give due diligence enough time for boys and girls when you're doing practices or meets? Sometimes, looking at the meet for like a conference schedule. Both are at maybe the same course, boys go off the back, girls go off the front. So as a coach is able to walk along and be there for them, make loops. And you get enough. Some of them are, you play 18 holes 9 holes is in Belgrade and 9 holes is in Osakis. And the girls are in Osakis and the boys are in BB or in Belgrade. And then they eat meat, they have lunch, and then they flip flop. So, you know, you have that going on. Some of them are just solely boys meets or some solely girls meets. So if that coach is never there at practice, it can be hard and difficult to help them improve from a head perspective.
Sure. I'm just wondering if the numbers aren't there. I mean, what does it take to sustain a program like that, right? So if we have 3 kids that that go out for it, for girls and 5 for boys, is that enough to sustain 2 coaches? Or can we look at it again and say, hey, maybe we should combine it, or how do we go about that? I mean, being that we're brand new to it, so that's my question.
I think we have to have a starting point, right? And go from there, you know, with a head in a junior high for each. It's a starting point to know, and based on that student interest survey, I mean, there was a.
What
good
happens if
interest.
everybody said they were gonna come out as comes out, and then one isn't gonna be enough?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, are we stuck to that? If
So,
nothing's happening,
yeah,
we only have 8 golfers or something.
Yeah, we would
We
definitely
revisit it.
revisit, yes, for sure. Just like I think, didn't you have tennis here for a bit? And then no longer had tennis because there wasn't an interest, so.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens and then we don't offer it again.
And sometimes, you know, they're in a teacher contract, there's actually 2 head positions for track and field. And they're co-heads, and did that justify with, you know, 3 assistants doing it? It's all dependent on how things go.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure that for this initial.
right. Okay, just because it's so new, do we want
Yeah.
to be set in stone with 2 and then?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, you know, or maybe that's not enough, maybe we need, you know,
Right.
assistance if we've got 30 kids on each team, I don't know, you know, we can revisit that and move forward.
For sure.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the coaching placement request. Director Bellman,
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Director Hackett. All right, I have a motion made by Director Bauman, a second by Director Hackett, to approve the coaching placement requests. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain? Motion passes 6-0. All right, 10F, approval of the 23-24 school calendar.
I don't know if this is my last time up here or not. After a lot of work on this, I've become, I guess, over the years, I've become the calendar guy. We take this process as we sketch out a calendar, take it before an admin meeting. From there, it goes out to the staffs in both buildings for input. It is brought back to an admin meeting where we discuss any input that we have received from staff. And then from there, we make adjustments to the calendar. And what you're seeing tonight is the end result of that process. This is the calendar that we are proposing for next school year. This goes on a month by month. I will have a condensed view of this for you next year. As part of this is giving you a month by month, but you'll also have a condensed version of this that you can see the whole school year with. It looks very similar to this school year, with a couple of teacher days in August, there on the 21st and 22nd, where we will be doing some in-service stuff together, K-12. It is really nice to get teachers in the building in August before they get going on. They get busy in their classrooms. They're not correcting papers. They don't have things that are going to take them out of focusing on some of the, maybe the bigger district goals and things that we want to work on in those 2 days. And so those 2 days are very valuable. And then we have the traditional teacher workshop week there in August. September is pretty similar to our calendar this year. The first day of school for grades 6, 7, and 8 is Tuesday the 5th. The elementary does their elementary pre-conferences on the 5th, and then the first day of school for grades K through 5 and 9 through 12 is Wednesday, September 6th. The other nice part about bringing our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in on the first day of school alone is they get a feel for the building. They get to kind of sort out lockers and hallways and lunch and bells, and they do that without all the big kids being there. And they only get a day, but that day that they have those high school teachers that are teaching high school, they're out in the hallways helping kids, making sure that they know where they're going. I don't know where this classroom is, and 6th graders, about 2 or 3 days, you get them to the point where they are pretty comfortable knowing where they're going and where they're supposed to be and what crowd they should be following and how to get when their lunch is and how they open their locker. And that Tuesday seems to alleviate that they don't have to worry about doing that with 550 people here. And so it works out really good. For the calendar purposes, after that, September, we start piling days into September. Into October, you have the MEA break there in October, otherwise it's pretty much straight through. In November, one of the changes we made is we originally had the in-service day on Monday, November 13th, and through staff input, they had requested that change to Friday, November 10th. It works out good for us as that ends up being one of the bigger deer hunting absentee days in the district. So we eliminate some student absenteeism for deer hunting by placing a staff in-service day on November 10th. The conference adjustment is like a night like tonight where teachers are here. The conference adjustment days are put in return for parent-teacher conferences. We made a compromise a number of years ago we always argued on which deer hunting date should we put the conference adjustment, and no one ever liked the answer. And the conference adjustment being put on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving was a compromise that everyone kind of nodded their head at. And so we've kept it there, and it's a huge travel day for those that are traveling away for Thanksgiving. I think it is one of the biggest travel days of the year, if I'm not mistaken. That conference adjustment day works out really nice, and it was a real nice compromise by both buildings and the staffs in both buildings to put that there. So November 22nd is a conference adjustment day. December, everything goes straight through until the 22nd of December. We'll be off for the start of Christmas break. Into January, we have no school on the 1st, and then Tuesday the 2nd, we are back in action with an in-service date on January 15th. Otherwise, we're piling days in there straight through. February, very much similar to what we are right now. The February 26th date is where we are on the calendar currently. February looks almost exactly like it does this year. March, we added a couple, we have a couple no school days in there. Give students a break during that time where kind of right between sports and the end of the sports seasons. In service in March, and then you have Easter at the end. You have Easter Monday on April 1st. And the rest of April, then we are right in the heart of MCA testing. And so having those full weeks there in April help out a lot.
Can you go back to March just a second? Good, okay, thanks. I got it.
May, we took a day in, if you go from April 1st until Memorial Day, straight through, one on the other day, the other national Minnesota holiday is opening and fishing. And so we decided to put a no school day on the Friday before the opener. If anything, it was, we don't have traffic on our roads. If you've been on Highway 10 on Friday of opening and fishing, just not having our students traveling and having buses out and trying to make turns off Highway 10, if that's reason enough, it would be, but it's a nice day to get people out if they do have travel plans for the opener, that they can do that. Graduation will be May 24th. No school on Memorial Day, and then you can see the last student day is on May 31st. So even with the breaks that we put in, which I really like spreading out the breaks of having a day in March, having a couple days in February, it gives these shorter opportunities. If people want to plan a vacation, they can plan around, maybe they only miss one school day or maybe a school day on either end of a longer break. And it gives some periodic breaks to break up the school year, and we are still out with students in May. So that is the calendar, and then in June, we have the teacher day. The teacher workshop checkout day is Monday, June 3rd. Questions?
I have a question. I know we had discussed surveying for like spring break, or if people liked the way we did it this year. Would that, let's say everybody wanted a spring break, would that then go into effect like the following year?
Yeah, we would have to
Leave this as
This
a,
would be this, yeah, and we'd have to survey. Like, I think it'd be, if we want to know that information, I think we're better off surveying. We'll have to talk about the timing of that.
yeah, because I think you need people to experience this year
yeah,
to know.
exactly. Right. And you're right, we would want to survey families
Yeah,
and staff, right?
I just know we had discussed that, so I wanted to make sure that wasn't gonna screw anything up.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 23-24 school calendar as presented.
So moved.
Director Trout.
Second.
Second by Director Bowman. All right, I have a motion from Director Trout and a second by Director Bowman to approve the 23-24 school calendar. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain. Motion passes 6-0. Approval of the district office FTE.
Okay, so we have been doing some work to determine what exactly we need for staff in the district office and what our current setup is and what openings. So what we've, and also with the strategic plan. So our current model, right now, we have an HR director who also does payroll. We have a finance assistant position that's vacant. We have administrative assistant to the superintendent of school board, and then we have a community education director title. However, this position is occupied by a full-time teacher, and they're just paid a stipend to do that work, a smaller stipend. And then we have school management services, Scott, coming in with our business manager duties, along with Anne Marie giving us some a little bit of behind the scenes payroll support. And then right now, Robert Pombo's been filling in on some of that finance assistant work with the accounts payable, because that position has been vacant. What we're looking to do is to reorganize this so that the work can get done in a more efficient manner. And so I'd like to move this HR director to an HR community education director. And that way 0.5 of that, approximately 0.5 of that FTE would go to community education director work. So we could start to build that program back, have more adult classes, more opportunity for enrichment courses, that type of thing. We would have a finance specialist, and this person, rather than being that prior assistant position, this one would actually do the payroll functions and the accounts payable functions. And then we would like to put a preschool / district office secretary that sits up front, that lets people in. Now, that person would also handle all of the financials around the school age care program, the 5 different funding streams around the preschool program, and the registrations and the attendance, and handle the attendance line and that type of thing, just like our building secretaries do at both the elementary and the high school. We now have a very robust preschool, and I only see that expanding. We're offering now with wraparound care. It's a busy place, and it needs some clerical support with that. Then we would continue with our administrative assistant, and that current teacher that's doing the work that he's doing, that's more of a programmer's work. His duties would stay the same. He's doing some of the youth sports and receive his stipend that he's been receiving. And then we continue this time with school managers, of course, Scott being our business manager, with just again, potentially a little bit of that support with Anne Marie on some of the backside of the payroll, depending on how the specialist job works. So if you go to the next slide, please. So basically, these are some of the duties that are currently being handled in their functions. So you have HR that's handling HR and payroll, Title IX, Mars, STAR, and supervising the finance assistant. Finance assistant was doing some AP work in the front desk and some preschool support. The administrative assistant handles all the board support, social media, open enrollment, homeschool, serves as a notary, and then does some MDE reporting and data entry. Again, the community ed director currently is doing that youth athletics, limited amount there, and then our business manager duties. What the new work would be, HR community ed director would be handling HR and benefits, our district insurance, and continuing with contract negotiations. She'll be in our closed session tonight. As the current HR director, so that role would switch. Title IX preschool, this person would supervise preschool, the school age care program, any adult education, and supervise that community ed coordinator, finance specialist, and the secretary. The finance specialist will do payroll, AP, some deposits, rev tracks, and invoicing and 1099s. The community education and district office secretary will handle all our preschool billing, our school age care billing, our community education billing, and registration support, along with handling, being the preschool secretary and welcoming any visitors. There's also some mail and some of those other kind of clerical duties. Administrative assistant continues to do what that person's been doing. Community education programmer again continues to do the same thing, and then school management services again provides us our business manager support. Next slide, please.
Is there any difference between the programmer and the coordinator?
Go back up. Yeah, we have, it is the same.
Okay.
I think we're gonna call it a programmer. We're kind of leaning towards, is it a coordinator or a programmer? I think we're gonna leave for program.
Who's gonna do the Mars coordinator?
The Mars work will go to the finance specialist.
The finance specialist?
Yep. And some of the Mars is also supported with building secretary support too.
So if we do this, this will be a little bit more of a separation of duties.
Right, well,
Or
what
we
helps,
always get dinged on.
yeah, so especially now that we'll have HR director that supervises that finance specialist, so you have two different people there,
Yep.
plus you have school management services, Scott, and some of what Anne Marie does. We're gonna have 4 different people that have touch points and eyes set on versus 1 or
Yep.
2 is what we had in the past, and so hopefully we should not get that ding of
Okay.
that work. And then, next slide.
I actually have a question
Oh,
before I move
sure.
on.
Mhm.
Is it standard to have a secretary do all that billing?
Yeah, for community, I for
Preschool
sure.
Billing, that billing.
Yeah, because it's more an automatic system through RevCrud. Yeah. Yep. So I've worked in 3 districts, that's how it's always been. Yeah. So next one, the benefits for reorganizing. Obviously, our growth at preschool, I feel like that will continue to grow. So the secretarial needs are there, and now with giving some on-site here all the time, leadership I think will just make us increase our alignment with pre-K through the K-12 system, so I'm excited about that. We'll have much more oversight with community ed and hopefully increase, more of what MAP is doing around lesson planning and some opportunities there. Increase our adult class offerings and increase our youth enrichment offerings would be a goal. And then also improve distribution of our business office duties in hopes that we have different eyes on things, and so you don't have one person with too much control. And then the next slide. Just so you know, current expenses on those staffing come out of the general fund of about 399,700, and Fund 4 for the staffing is running around 19,800. Because like I said, that community ed director just paid a small stipend. The proposed financial model by making these shifts actually gives us a savings about $17,300. So what's part of that savings is with the new elementary principal coming on, there will be a cost savings there in salary. I think I'm actually understating that. Scott and I went back and looked at potentially with a new principal coming on, it could actually be a little bit higher cost savings for general fund. The Fund 4 increase comes from that 0.5 FTE from the community education director coming out of that Fund 4. Go to the next slide. I want to show you Fund 4 so you can see that it can support this. If you look at your salaries and benefits, you can see we've given you a 10-year model here of what this looks like. You have salaries and benefits, and then you have additional expenses. And so it gives you your totals. If you look at your revenues that we're bringing in here, they have exceeded expenditures substantially over the last several years. 1 year had a loss at FY18. I think they were probably likely expanding preschool at that time with hiring more staff, potentially was the situation there. And then you can see the fund balance. You can see that that fund balance has grown significantly to the point that right now it's at 90.75% of your expenses. Generally, fund balance, good practice is 12 to 17, 18%. This is at 90%. So I do believe that this fund can support this shift while also freeing up general fund resources to be used for other things. So if you go to the next slide. So how does this align to our strategic plan, World's Best Workforce, kindergarten readiness? This paying real close attention to preschool and just keep building the skills of all of our teachers and pairs in our preschool to keep them aligned with what's happening in kindergarten. And just keep that work going with more direct oversight by having a person on site here. Life skills and post-secondary service learning opportunities. Community education director can start thinking of different ways to provide kids service learning opportunities outside of school time. Also, social and emotional supports that was asked, action step 4 about community education classes for parents around how do you help middle schoolers? You know, if you're a first-time parent of a middle schooler, maybe there's some opportunities where we can find ways to help with strategies to use, because that's just a different time. There's other classes where you can help parents to understand when they walk into a bedroom, what might be there that they don't notice. Could be like around vaping and that kind of thing. There's different kinds of classes like that are available that a community ed director could potentially bring in. Also, co-curricular and extracurricular opportunities and participation. Increased opportunities for community education. Maybe we can go ahead and get, this is what I really want us to see, is pickleball for elderly people. And then I want our high school kids to play them, because that's going to be fun. So there's some opportunities there to expand what we do with our community and our kids. Next slide. And then, so my recommendation is I'd like to add that 1.0 FT preschool community ed front desk secretary and then do the changes. So the additional cost to the fund for is the request at this point. Any questions?
Yeah. So. To have a HR payroll position. Also be a community education director, don't you need a certificate in order to be a community education director?
So what's gonna happen is the HR director has, would have to have administrative licensure. We don't have 1,000 kids. Once we have 1,000 kids or more, you're required to have a licensed community education director. Right now, they have to have an administrative license because they will be evaluating licensed teachers in preschool. So they either have to have principal's license, special education director license, community education director license, or superintendent's license. So as long as they have one of those licenses, they can fulfill that particular role. Once we hit 1,000 students, then they would be required to get the community education director license. Good question.
We're knocking on that door.
Yeah, we're really close. I hope we can get there because that's always great.
Would that be a hard,
No,
that's not a hard.
because if
hard
you already
thing to
have,
find.
if you already
Okay.
have an administrative license, it's usually just a finance class and fund for, and then do your internship and maybe one other community ed licensure course.
Right, I just don't wanna make a. You know, I don't wanna make a position that's so hard to fill that you
Yeah.
know, you're looking for a leprechaun,
Great.
Well,
so.
that was my question too, because. It seems like. HR director and community ed are like two separate things, kind of like Randy said, so now you're looking at. A leprechaun position. Where if the one we have now decides to move on or whatever. Now we're trying to fill a position that you have to have a special license for.
The-
I think that those would kind of be separate, in my opinion.
The only thing is if you have good people. You align your office to capitalize on it, and realignment is just this is probably the 5th time we've realigned the office. It's just a constant. Making the best out of the people that you have, you know, and I just. I asked the question just because, we've used Phil's license before, I believe, for community ed, right? You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
watched over, and Phil's not gonna be here, and that's what I'm worried about,
Yeah,
so.
so as long as I have an administrative license, it's okay. And as for an HR director, I know, principals that become HR directors. People move into that role and they learn it. If that were to ever be a situation where someone would leave,
HR directors are cut out of different cloth than everybody else.
you know.
They are, they gotta be able to
I-
hold their mouth, and I'd never be able to do it, I yap too much, so I have a lot of respect for people that, because they're cut out of different cloth, I don't know if you could school that much into me, I just don't think you could, so I have a lot of respect for the people that do that,
Yeah.
so.
So then the total increase that I'm looking at, like, 49,000, right, overall increase?
Yeah, if you were to put both funds together, but I keep them separate. And the reason I do that, and I'd like the board to be thinking about them separately as well, because Fund 4 money can only be used for Fund 4 expenses. Whereas the general fund can be used for anything, which is why when you can free up general fund resources by putting things into the Fund 4 that qualify, then you have other opportunities that you can use those general fund dollars for, like increase FTE in teachers or paras or whatever other needs we might.
And Fund 4 is supposed to be self-sustaining, right?
Yes, Fund 4 should be self-sustaining.
What pours into Fund 4?
Fund 4 is all your preschool, your adult education, your youth enrichment, before and after school care. Any kind of adult programming, adult basic education, so your GED. We don't have that program here, we're not large enough, but like Little Falls would, so offering a GED, that type of thing. So those would be licensed teachers, the preschool would be licensed teachers.
It's basically making sure that money from the formula isn't spent on things that aren't K through 12 or 1 through 12, K through 12 kids, I suppose. Huh?
Right,
Yeah.
because preschool is through.
Previously, have we had a position where payroll and accounts payable were required of the same employee? Like, how is that maximizing on that, separation of duties? Isn't that too much
Well-
for one role?
No,
Aren't they both, don't they both cycle on the same, like 15th and 30th? Like, isn't both job requirements?
accounts
Pretty full.
payable is paid as they come in.
Okay.
Payroll is that very strict. You gotta be here at that time. Scott, you might want to mention, because you had another district that has a similar position, correct?
Correct, yes. So lots of districts, especially the size of Brown Royalton, somewhere in that 500 to 1,200 range. A lot of different people are be wearing different hats within the district, as you guys know. And it's very typical to have somebody do both accounts payable and payroll because a lot of it is data entry position. Where they can process that information without having a lot of contact with the front or whatnot, so they can do all of that position very easily. I'd say all the districts I have that position doing both.
And again, Anne Marie does do a behind the scenes secondary piece of payroll. That is another set of eyes on it.
Anne Marie from
Yes, yes.
Would we be outsourcing more duties?
No.
To SMS, or would we be keeping more in-house?
Actually,
Or just
they don't change. They give us our business management service with Scott and some of that behind the scenes with Anne Marie. Right now, there's temporary that we're paying Robert Cromwell to help us with accounts payable because we don't have that position filled, but that would go away.
Okay.
So they don't change.
So the part of the contract that we have with SMS for their payroll services and their human resource support,
That's Anne Marie.
that's what Anne Marie is doing. Okay, so she's just like the extra set of eyes that reviews everything for us or make sure everything's correct or.
Right, and do you want to say more, Amy?
Sure, so I do all of the like
Data entry.
in-place data entry, all of the like, I'm the face of payroll here. Anne Marie does more of the behind the scenes kind of paying the ACH wires and the bills that, those kind of bills. We pay bills together, but she does more of the ACH, a lot of the, which is wires, a lot of the, TRA, PRA, all of the retirement kind of things. She does a lot of those pieces. She's also the, you know, you always want double checks with payroll. You want two sets of eyes looking at it. She does a lot of the, when we have, big things happening, we do like a big open enrollment, in November every year with benefits. We kind of simultaneously work together to do some of those kinds of things. So she really is kind of the support for the second half of payroll, which our business manager had done in the past. There was always a separation, a little bit of that. Now it's separated even more because we're hired through different people. But she does a lot of that assisting that. If there's things that I need support with. Right now, we're going into negotiations and there's big reports that that SMS is helping to build for the negotiations for the different union groups that are coming through, that they're working on instead of me having to do those pieces.
And the nice thing is, when we went with school management services, we thought it would be temporary because we were looking for a business manager to fill that void and couldn't find a suitable candidate, but it actually saved us money because we were paying, with salary and benefits, well over $100,000 for the business manager, and we are not paying that with school management services, with just the business manager and payroll support in that back end.
The other piece that we get from SMS that is a huge benefit in my role, but a huge benefit to everybody that they don't always realize it, is the fact that SMS works with lots of other districts. And so if we have something that happens that we're not really sure about, they have others that they can, other resources they go out to ask those questions. They have other business managers that are right at their disposal, other payroll, HR people that are at their disposal. So they've been there, done that already and can help guide. So that is a huge benefit in my role. And just as finance and any kind of those pieces that is a big unwritten, I mean, it's huge. If you want to put it in a wordle, that's the biggest thing that we get out of them, is that support is unbelievable. That we wouldn't get if we had our own business manager on site. I mean, they have their network, but their SMS's network is much larger than any one person's network. It's super helpful for us.
And having those different sets of eyes means you also have different perspectives. So it's in your different experiences. So when you all come, when we have our administrator meetings, we get lots of different lenses there with different experiences. And I think our team is a good team. And this is just going to enhance it. This will enhance it.
So with SMS being our long-term plan, there wouldn't really be financial backing for a business manager in the future, or when we add all these other full-time positions to redistrict or to repose the district office here. My question is, what access do employees have to Scott and Anne Marie and Robert? Like, are we contracted with them for certain hours of a day or certain days of the week they give us their
Scott's
time?
always available, and staff don't contact Anne Marie. That would just be,
Oh, okay.
that's saying nobody would contact Scott or Robert. That would just be Amy, who's only temporary. Scott has access via telephone, email, and then when he comes here, if we need him to be in person, which we haven't, they can contact him immediately. And he's done a really good job of giving all of the coaches, all through our activities, their budgets for the first time. They actually know what their budgets are, and they get to actually have some control. And so it's just been a real good disaggregation of power, and it's running really smoothly. And it's been a breath of fresh air to be able to have people own their own areas and be able to talk about it.
To piggyback on that, so my husband's a teacher and a coach. He says the transition has been a 180. He said it's just great. The communication, the knowing the budgets, if he needs to get reimbursed for something, he said it's just fantastic. So I know they do a good job with communication.
So with this restructuring, you want to hire just a brand new position. Will there be any other pay adjustments for any of the current redefined positions? Or
Yeah.
are they staying status quo, or what's that look like?
So the HR community ed director role would be on the pay more of like an assistant principal range. Because they have to evaluate licensed teacher and they have to have an administrative license to have that position. So it would be in that pay rate, but again, half of that salary is gonna be coming out of Fund 4. And
then-
we'll see how it goes. If it ends up being that more of the time is being with, as a community ed director and less in HR, we can actually make that a 60-40 split instead of a 50-50 split and take more out of Fund 4 versus the general fund.
So the other positions are the same, just
The
HR
finance, the finance specialist position is a little bit higher in pay. Because of the requirements of what that job is. With both payroll, with the payroll function is what increases that.
So now we're gonna have two people overseeing kind of community education, is that,
No, just one, the community ed director.
okay, overseeing, right? But then there's two people involved. Right, so you got,
Yeah, that current position will continue to do some of that youth. The youth work that they've been doing, but the director will take over the fitness center piece and take over the advisory council meetings and that kind of thing.
because it says no change in the community education program. right?
Meaning that person's role with the youth and then their funds, the money they receive, the stipend.
Has there been, enough demand for a full-fledged adult community ed? Like I'm thinking about this position, the HR director and community/community ed director. Is that enough stuff for a full-time position, or is that more of a part-time position? Is there enough there with the removal of all the payroll and all of that other, and passing that on to a different position? Is there enough there for a full-time position, or?
You mean just to be because they'll be doing HR
Right,
with all the benefits, the Title IX, all of that.
okay. I didn't know if that was day in and day out work.
The
Or if that
HR,
was just that
the
fee.
HR work has some day in and day out work, and the community ed will be, because their job is gonna be to be increasing programming.
Right,
So
and
we
I was
have
wondering
to-
what the demand is. Did we have adult education classes available in this community before and it fizzled out because there wasn't anybody signing up?
Yeah, they used to have the AD part community ed
Right,
Well,
happening.
actually, we used to have a part-time community ed director.
Also.
Just-
And,
No, just that was one position.
Mhm.
And they moved on. I'll honestly say that ever since we've not had a full-fledged community ed director, well, COVID didn't help it at all either, though, so. But I think that I live in a weird place because I get all the community ed books. I get Foley, Sauk Rapids, Piers, Ed, Royalton's.
come to Rose.
So, there's a lot offered at the other schools that we probably don't offer here. That's probably because they don't have time to
Yeah.
coordinate it, so,
You can't ask a full-time teacher.
yeah, I get it, so. mm. Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'll move this
all right,
to approve the district office FTE.
all right.
I have one more question. Is this an active or what do they call it, action item, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Do we typically vote on action items first go around, the normal?
I'll second.
Second by Director Bowman. All right. Any other discussion? I guess I do have a question. That one FTE, what fund is that coming out of?
Partial Fund 4 and partial Fund 1.
It's
because-
basically was a half and a half with two positions, right?
Yeah, the 1.0, the preschool secretary. That's a full-time position.
Yep.
Well, it's not 260 days, actually. It's the same days as what the high school and elementary secretary is. But about three, I can't recall the exact breakdown, it's not on the slide, but portion of it comes out of the Fund 4 and a portion out of Fund 1, because when they do the general overall welcoming, that would be a general expense.
All right, so I have a motion from Director Hackett and a second from Director Bauman to approve the district office FTE. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Yeah.
Nay.
2 opposed. 4 in favor, 2 opposed. Motion passes 4-2. All right, approval of potential teacher PD day for inclement weather.
Yeah, so I just want to bring this forward and principals, you can join in if you have any comments to make about this one. Some districts do this, so if it's an emergency kind of inclement weather, they've allowed for a PD day for their teachers. And so in talking with our teachers, we asked what they thought about this option, and it would be likely only used maybe like the day after a long break, or potentially it comes up right before a break, potentially. And what they would be able to do is, so the kids would have a snow day, but the teachers would actually have a professional development day. And so they went through together, both the elementary and the secondary, went through and designed some options themselves, and they came together and talked about what it could be, and they came to us and we sent it back and did this kind of back and forth. And what they've come up with is there'd be a staff meeting from 8 to 8:30, a virtual staff meeting. There'd be PLC meetings from 8:30 to 10. And then they would do 2 hours of the HRS work, which is the professional development that we're doing with, like Phil was saying, proficiency scales and learning targets and things as such. And then after that time is completed, they would spend 2 hours working on one or more of the following, which would be their CEU work, where they get continuing education credits through Sourcewell or Midstate, Catalyst reviews, second step and better together review, proficiency scales again, just some options. And then they would have to fill out a Google form to explain exactly what they did during those hours that aren't exactly staffed, as in the staff meeting of PLC. And then report that back to how they think that will benefit their instruction back to the principals, so the principals will know exactly what they did. And they can have an opportunity to reflect on how this betters their education. So this is what we wanted to bring forward to see what the board would think about that opportunity for a PD day in the event of inclement weather.
I have some questions. So this is, if they did this, that would then alleviate having to come back at the end of the school year and make this day up, correct? So my question is this a requirement of all teachers, or let's say you have a handful of teachers that maybe have young children, so a snow day, now they have to take care of the kids. Are we, are they gonna get?
Yeah, they'd still have to do the PD day if we would call this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that was all part of this, like when you checked with them and stuff,
Yeah.
and
I don't know that this will get used very often.
Right.
I really don't know.
I like the option, it's. great
Because with
option.
e-learning days, we have the option to keep the learning going for students better than we did in the past before this, but it's just another option. We thought too that sometimes that we don't really have organized, if they do have to make up the day in June, we let them use comp time and personal time if they wanted to, whereas this, they wouldn't do that, they participate.
How close is this to the schedule of what a regular PD day would look like? Somewhat close, I mean.
I think it's. Some PD days are more scheduled than others, like Bill was saying before, you had more. Highly scheduled days and they needed a little bit of a break, so this last one wasn't as heavy, it's dependent on the needs.
I say this sounds a whole lot like what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Can you clarify for me? I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure what's PLC stand for.
Professional learning community. Okay, so grade level teams or subject levels teams come together. which I'm excited about because we're gonna do some more professional development around highly functioning PLCs come August, so. it's gonna be exciting, so.
She just make your eyes glaze over with that or not?
What a professional one.
yeah. So think like elementary. You got your history. So they're not teaching the same thing year after year, or that they're building on it, you know, they teach them some things. And then they build on it the next year, they're not spending the time reteaching or from grade to classroom, they're kind of teaching the same thing, so. You know, if you had teacher B last year, you come in and the kids who had him or her are way better off in this one subject than the other subject, so
Right.
it's just trying to get some alignment of everything so that they know what each other is doing,
Mhm.
so.
That's kind of the concept of that high reliability.
Yeah,
skills,
yeah,
right?
you know, it's probably just a matter of, so we can review some things and then actually move on and not have to just reteach everything.
Well, actually, too, the PLCs will go ahead and set goals, and so they'll
Yeah.
set SMART goals, and they'll use student data to drive their instruction, so that's what the point of the PLC is, for you to come together, so for example, you might have third grade teachers that come together, and they've set goals at the beginning of the year for their PLC, and then they go in and look at the data to see, are they gonna meet that goal? I want so many students proficient in word recognition or something, whatever, right? And then they come back in and they say, well, my students are doing this, they're always missing this. Well, why have you tried this strategy? I've done this and this works. And so it's a really nice opportunity to team and learn from each other and improve instructional practice. And that's the goal. So it comes out of the fours. And Marzano's added the fifth question that I really like, says, how am I gonna know if they're learning it? What am I gonna do if they're not? What am I gonna do if they are and I need to extend them? But it's also then, what am I gonna do to improve and enhance my instructional practice? So that PLC work gets it all. What do I want them to know? How do I know if they're learning it? What do I do if they're not? How do I extend them if they are? And then how do I improve the instructional practice?
What happens if teachers can't do this? Like Tyra was saying, if there's young children, do they have the option to do like the comp day or something?
Yeah, we hadn't, because if we call an e-learning day, they're at home with those kids and they're still working. So. Along those lines, it wouldn't be. Yeah, just like a regular parent, right? Right.
I'll motion to approve.
Development. I have a motion to approve the potential teacher PD day for inclement weather by Director Bauman in the second,
Director Hackett.
by Director Hackett. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain? Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to policy readings. So first policy reading, we have the 6 listed there that we'll be looking at. That's why our packets are a little bit thicker for this month. And then second policy reading, it's what we started this last month. Student medication, the nurses did a really good job updating that for how we are doing the right business that we're doing and explaining it in the policy. So it says what we're doing. And then approval, second policy reading. So the final reading due to minor changes is 401 equal employment opportunity, 412 expense reimbursement. That one was just changing to the federal rate.
Yeah.
That's what it said now. And then search of student lockers, desks, personal possessions, and students' person. And then 620 credit for learning. So those are the only 401, 412, 502, and 620. Final reading on the second policy that I'll accept a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Director Bauman,
I'll second it.
second by Director Hackett. Any discussion on these four? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain? Motion passes 6-0. All right, and approval of third policy reading, so 613 graduation requirements.
So moved.
Who's the second?
Me.
Thank you. Motion by Director Hackett, second by Director Trout, to approve the third policy reading, 613 graduation requirements. Any discussion on that one? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 6-0. All right. Wow, that was a whole lot. Upcoming meeting schedule, Wednesday, March 8th at 2 p.m. Policy Committee meeting.
I will not be able to be there at that one. Did we want to move that or just keep it? And I just won't be able to be there.
This is
That whole day or that time?
That whole day.
Back it up a week?
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be one. Oh, you mean go out a week?
Yeah,
You mean go to the 15th?
yeah, well, it's,
Oh.
yeah, 15.
yeah, that's Wednesday day.
Yes.
No.
I'm fine with that.
That would work? That
Yep.
would work. All right,
Because that gives us a backstop to do that. Yep. Are you good with that?
All my calendars at home on the wall, so sure.
Okay. At least, no, okay. Well, let us know if it is. Possible change to the 15th. All right, Tuesday, March 21st, noon finance meeting. And Monday, March 27th, 6 p.m. regular board meeting.
I will make the motion to close the regular meeting. So we can go into closed meeting for negotiation strategies as permitted by Minnesota statute section 13D.03.
All right,
I will second that wonderful motion.
all right. I have a motion from Director Bauman and a second from Director Hackett to close the regular meeting at 7:48 p.m. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carried 6-0.